On today's podcast, we sit down with Mark Allen, music marketer, manager, and strategist whose expertise spans over 2 decades in the industry. Mark has worked with thousands of artists across genres, helping them navigate the new digital landscape. We talk about the most essential questions every artist should ask before releasing music, how to harness the power of data and social media to build your audience, and the strategies that can turn a hobby into a sustainable career. Mark also shares his insights on AI, algorithms, and the real reasons why so many artists are held back from success. Whether you're just starting out or looking to level up your marketing game, this conversation is packed with practical advice you can't afford to miss. Insiders, are you ready? Welcome to MUBUTV's Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage artists and music business professionals who are dedicated to having a successful career in the new music industry. Here are your hosts, Ritch, Esra, and Eric Knight.
Welcome back, Insiders, to another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage your music career. On today's episode, we sit down with Mark Allen, music marketing expert and artist manager at both Blossom Agency and Vitalic Noise. We dive deep into the most essential questions every artist should be asking before releasing new music, what it takes to build long-term fan engagement in the age of algorithms and AI, and how the right strategy can make sure your music doesn't get lost in the sea of endless content. Mark shares actionable tips on leveraging data and social media, working with limited budgets, and why knowing your passion and purpose is the foundation for a successful career. Plus, don't miss his insights on emerging technologies like AI and blockchain, and the mindset shift artists need to succeed in today's industry. Whether you're an up-and-coming artist looking to break through or a seasoned pro trying to stay ahead, this is an episode you absolutely can't miss. But first, a word from our sponsor. Hey, Insiders! Are you an aspiring musician, artist, band, or future music business professional looking to take your career to the next level? Well, look no further. At MUBUTV, we offer personalized career counseling and coaching designed specifically for folks like you.
Imagine having both of us by your side, guiding you through every step of your music journey. Our sessions are tailored to meet your unique needs, focusing on critical aspects of your music career, such as refining your songs, defining your artist story, identifying your target audience, and enhancing your social media presence, just to name a few.
Whether you're just starting out or looking to elevate your existing career, we've got you covered. Our comprehensive approach ensures you get insights on everything from live shows to branding and marketing strategies. We understand that every artist is unique. That's why our coaching is personalized just for you.
And here's the best part. We offer flexible coaching packages that fit any budget. Choose from individual sessions ranging from 30 to 90 minutes, or save with our discounted 4-session packages. Experience custom sessions designed to enhance your music career, with opportunities for greater savings when you choose bundled sessions. Investing in your musical journey has never been more accessible.
Imagine the clarity and direction you'll gain after just one session. The feedback on your songs, the strategies to grow your audience, and the confidence to perform live, all tailored just for you.
So why wait? Don't let uncertainty hold you back. Join us for your free 15-minute discovery call at book.mubutv.com for a transformative coaching experience that will elevate your music career. That's book.mubutv.com.
Hi, this is Larry Mistel, founder and CEO of Primary Wave Music, and you're listening to the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.
Welcome back, Insiders. Today's featured guest is Mark Allen, music marketing expert and artist manager. This was a very, very, very informative and I think, Eric, extremely important conversation.
Yeah.
Because he touched on a lot of, talk about the deep dive and specifics.
Right.
He talked about the specifics that you need to be aware of as an artist, whether you're starting out, especially if you're starting out or beginning or already have a career, in terms of what you need to be doing with relation to the music industry when you're putting your music out. One of the most interesting things that I thought he addressed, which was, it showed a real important consciousness of the world that we're in today, which I thought is very valuable for you insiders, which is the whole aspect of, he said, avoid releasing music without context. Dropping music with no strategy, he said, is a very common pitfall that a lot of artists, no context, no story, no intentionality behind the releases. This is crucial crucial, he said. All of those elements are crucial for cutting through to today. I mean, otherwise it's just, you're just kind of out there going, hello?
Right.
Hello?
Yeah.
Is anyone there? And that's kind of the metaphor of what it's like.
And that's the mantra that we've been having here on MUBUTV, which you've always talked about. We've always talked about,
crucial.
Which is, building that story, who you are, what you believe in, what do you think your fans believe in, and
and who they are,
and putting that into a story. Yeah, I also thought that one of the really important areas was, and this is getting back to kind of almost reiterating what you're talking about, know yourself as an artist. Before releasing music, artists should clearly understand their passions, motivations, and the reasons they got into music in the first place. And this goes back to what we usually, when we consult with our clients, is the whole idea of who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, what don't you believe in, and putting that into building the story.
It's foundational.
Yeah.
Absolutely foundational. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, insiders, sit back, relax, and enjoy our featured conversation with Mark Allen.
Mark, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. You know, when an artist or an act is starting to think about releasing their music, what are the most essential questions they should be asking themselves before starting that process?
There's a few things. One would be, what are you passionate about as far as your music, your drive, why you got into this? What kind of rhythm or cadence do you want to be at when releasing that music? And that could be, the chronology of a release is different for every artist. Some artists it's about a single, some artists it's about they have an EP or an album release. And when we sit down with somebody, it's really kind of figuring out what kind of body of work they're trying to present, where they are at that stage of their career. And, you know, there are quite a few factors, but I think those are the big ones.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, today when an artist is starting to think about marketing their music, what platforms are the most effective to help them identify their audience?
Yeah, so there's the social side and there's the music side, the music discovery side. Music discovery might be Pandora, might be your Spotify, might be your Apple Music. Data collection is a big part of what we do at Blossom, as well as Vitalik Noise on the management side. I kind of manage artists. I'm looking at it from both perspectives, right? The artist team as well as the marketing team. And on the music side, we look at like the indicators. As an artist, you want to look at the platforms that are going to give you data back, that you're going to be able to kind of read into that, you know, who's listening, how old are they, what are their, you know, what are they responding to, right? Which is something that you kind of get back from like Spotify for Artists and your Apple Music dashboard. We spend a lot of time in there really parsing through that data, discovering the audience, and really as an artist, it's important to kind of know who's listening, how long they're listening, where they're listening, and be able to kind of react to that data in real time. Social media is obviously a great tool for a lot of those same things. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube are the big three. Actually, I should say Facebook as well. So big four. We spend a lot of time sort of helping artists sort of understand their socials, understand the content that they should be making, you know, with what regularity they should be making that content, and testing various, I hate to call it content, but it is the visuals that accompany the music. They need to be kind of understanding what it is they're making and what's being responded to. So we'll do a lot of split testing of different content, what's working, what's not. And the nice part about that is you're getting an immediate response today, which is so important about social media, that real-time almost reporting that you can do yourself as an artist. So social media is honestly a gift to us as artists, and you get an immediate feedback, a yay and nay, and artists, you know, they're kind of doing themselves a disservice when they're kind of not using those platforms to the best of their ability. So yeah, those are the big ones.
Yeah, I look at it as like an immediate test group. You can try out things. Like you could try out, you know, what do you guys think of this new merch design? Is this cool? Would you guys buy this? It's like you immediately know.
Yes.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me ask you, Mark, how do artists identify the pioneers or, you know, early adapters of their work? Are there ways to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, social media and The early adopters to an artist are really the people that are the strongest opinions and love it or hate it. You know, sometimes like you'll talk to an artist and they don't like the haters. You know, they're immediately like, oh, they don't like my stuff. And I'm like, you know, that's okay. That's okay. You're going to get, that's reality. You know, sometimes people are going to feel strongly in the negative.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're going to feel strongly in the positive. But as far as getting that feedback, that's so important because it allows you to kind of take it in, you know, digest that feedback, digest that information. You're going to see early adopters. You're going to see people kind of come in, climb on board early. Just make sure that as you're seeing somebody sort of respond to that music, that you're sort of super serving that early listener with the kind of content that's going to make them happy, that they're going to check out, that's going to be different than other artists, right? You kind of want to differentiate yourself because so many artists are just dropping music with no strategy. So if you can be that artist sort of, again, super serving them with your brand of content and really bringing them in, engaging with them about it, you're going to be ahead of the game.
Yeah, it's so interesting that what you just said, because you said, you know, music with no strategy. That is one of the great sins of the modern business today that we call. Somebody once called it, you know, I think it was T-Bone Burnett who said, you know, there's so much music out there that will never be heard because it's music without context.
Right.
It's just like like spam that's thrown at you on your phone every day that you just delete. There's no sense of, you know,
Yeah, why would you
strategy.
go through that trouble of recording and spending your time and money? And then it's like you put it out like, well, if it doesn't do, it's like, okay. And it's like, then you're wondering why your career is tanking or, you know, stalling.
Which is the difference between a hobby and a career.
Right, which is very much what Ritch says all the time. You know, it's very good. If you want to do this as a hobby, it's a great hobby. But if you're doing this for real, you got to really be in it for real.
And you got to learn what you said. You've got to learn why you need a strategy, who you are, what you're about, where you're coming from, what do you stand for, all of that.
And for those that are getting haters, that's when you know you're doing something right. So for everybody out there that's getting the hate, just know that you're on the right track.
Absolutely.
Mark, what strategy should artists be adopting to build long-term engagement with their fans? Or does it depend on the specific artist and genre?
No, the artist genre should not be a factor as much as, I mean, there are some subtle differences in genre, but I think ultimately the rules of engagement are pretty similar. I work with country artists, I work with jazz artists, I work with rock, I work with electronic. I think there's so many ways to answer this question, but I would say that today you kind of have to understand the landscape of what's happening right now. The boots on the ground, as far as you're utilizing a platform, you know, these platforms that have these algorithms, right? That are these, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little more in the interview, but about AI and some of the curation that's going on through these services. And it's so important to sort of play ball with some of the things that are going on, because we've got such an opportunity today to give people the music, to distribute our music so quickly. AI and some of these platforms have really leveled the playing field for a lot of us. Like it used to be you needed a record label, you needed some big, machine behind you. Now getting the music out there to people is so simple. And I know it's cliche to mention things like, the Napster moment and the Spotify moment. These things are touchstone moments in music marketing and music availability. But since we have this opportunity right now to kind of get our music out there in such a quick way, it's important to just sort of harness the availability and to play with the algorithm, like use that to your advantage. Spotify has created these tools to curate music to your perfect listener. They know, it's crazy today how closely they can get, to your perfect, the ideal listener for your music. Use that to your advantage. Market yourself in a way that's going to help that algorithm find you and make you stand out.
Let me ask you, for artists who have limited financial resources, how can they identify the most effective platforms or channels to start promoting their work? And are there specific metrics or indicators that can guide them initially?
Yeah, socials are free. Posting is free. That part, the organic part, you can pick up your phone, you can start you can start making content. You can talk to your audience for free. That's great. There are if you really have limited resources and you're really trying to get exposure and you want to use paid marketing, that $5, $10, $15 a day are the daily minimum spends on most of these platforms. So I always tell artists that they kind of get scared at first when they see big numbers of like what some companies are charging for like sort of their promotional services. I'm like, you can kind of get in the door for a pretty inexpensive amount. I don't necessarily think there's a silver bullet to any of this. I think it's very important to kind of try many different facets of promotion and see what works for you. I don't think that, and every artist is going to have their own little formula, but it is really important that they study what's happening in real time. The way we were talking about testing before and kind of surveying, getting that feedback early, that will sort of guide you as far as what kind of content to make, what people are really enjoying. And as you're seeing that, you can bob and weave and ebb and flow your career to kind of meet like what the audience wants. And again, if you're just making it for yourself, if it's just a hobby, that's one thing. But if you're trying to build a career, you need to study, you need to research, you need to understand the algorithm and deliver in some consistent way, whether that be social media or releasing music.
Let me ask you, Mark, do you find that artists today are more knowledgeable and informed about data and the marketing of their music than in the past?
Yes, I've noticed a huge shift. That's a great question. Even in my job, because I've been in the music industry for 20 plus years. I think in the past 5 years, and I think it corresponds to COVID to some extent, we all kind of hunkered down. We all got really in the groove with these online platforms in a way that we never had before. It just forced us to be really mindful of what was happening on digital platforms. And I think artists are keenly aware of a lot of the sort of the demographic data, the save to listener ratio of them. I'm getting people now asking me about the click through, cost per acquisition of a follower, things like that, things that I didn't think I would hear from an artist talking to me. Now I'm getting a lot of artists that really understand the digital marketing landscape and the lingo. It's exciting on one hand. It's a little crazy that we've all become data scientists. That's a little crazy because we're not supposed to be that, but as musicians, but it's great to hear it. I'm all for it. I love artists that are really taking the time and the initiative to learn the process, study the data, and really kind of help themselves.
Mark, me and Ritch are actually AI. You're talking to two AI agents as we speak.
I know.
Well, it's funny because speaking on that, and you had brought it up a few minutes ago, what emerging technologies on the horizon, whether it be AI or blockchain, et cetera, do you feel will be playing a more prominent role when it comes to digital marketing and fan engagement?
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's sort of a really pivotal moment is happening now with curation.
Yeah.
This sort of AI has just supercharged this whole thing. We saw it beginning to happen with Apple Music and Spotify years, back 2014, 2015, 2018, in sort of I consider it the golden era of Spotify, where it was truly about the music. But now that we've hit this sort of saturation point, there's so much music,
right?
100,000 plus tracks
a day,
being uploaded a day. How do you cut through the noise? And it's like sort of this thing of like, it's this golden opportunity to get your music out there and have an algorithm that understands us really well. That's what it's really good at. It's great at really defining your niche audience. You have to kind of play ball with that as an artist. Don't fight the algorithm. People hear algorithm, hear AI, and they think bad, robots, they think bad. But for us, it's kind of a brilliant thing. It's amazing at how good it is at really finding your audience. Let's say you're an indie rock band and you sound a little bit in that Joy Division, like Interpol sound, let's say. It's amazing that it kind of will direct the fans right away in a very specific way to those influences very quickly if you do things right. That's amazing. It's a little freaky because on the fan end, like for example, myself, growing up in like the 80s, 90s, whatever, I had to go out and discover music. I had to go to the record store. I had to watch MTV, watch all the, programs on television, press, radio. It was a long process. Music discovery was a process.
And it was a lot smaller.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And now it's just being handed to you on a silver platter now.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yeah. So it's great. It does hurt my heart a little bit because part of the joy was finding the music. Yeah. And when you found something, you were so happy. Now you can literally within 5 minutes find every artist that ever made music in your genre and
then some
and listen to it all. It's a brilliant thing. This music discovery, this AI, this is huge for us. But we just have to make sure that we really handle it with care. I think actually, to me, the bigger issue with the technology actually is on the production side. When it comes to music creation, when you talk about AI tools, handling the mixing, the mastering, production, like sort of some of the vocal stuff that I see happening, I'm a little scared of that because that is, once you kind of leave your music creation up to a computer, there is a certain sense of like losing the humanity in music.
Right.
That freaks me out a lot more than on the marketing side. The marketing side, I think, is we're great. We're in a great position. We have a wealth of information and data out there. As a musician, as a team, whether it's your label or your management, you've got more at your disposal than ever. So I feel great about that. It's just on the creation side, a little scary.
Hey, insiders, we hope that you've been enjoying our featured conversation. Stay tuned because we've got so much value coming your way. But before we dive back in, a word from our sponsor.
Hey, Eric, as an artist, what do you find are the most challenging aspects to a music career, especially when you're starting out?
Well, I think one of the first things is just trying to get the direction of who you are as an artist, where you want to go, where you want to be. And, we've talked about it on the show a lot. Who is your target audience? Who you are? What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What do you think would resonate with an audience? And so those are some of the things that I would feel being a new artist. Obviously, what I know now is different because I know these things. But for people that are out there like our audience that don't have necessarily any direction to go would be the first things that I would start off with.
And having the songs
Absolutely.
That incorporate those elements that you're speaking of into it. That's so important today.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we started MUBUTV and why we started this new consulting service that we're offering to all of our insiders out there, because that is another one of the big things. I mean, that is the big thing, is like having the great songs. That's what it really starts off. Our friend Don Grierson always said, it always starts with a great song. So that's probably, besides putting together what your audience and what your target audience is the single most important thing. Where are your songs at currently today? Are you collaborating with people? Are you trying to go out to networking events where you can connect with other songwriters and stuff like that? So
yeah, and what are your strengths?
Exactly.
Are you a strong lyric writer? Are you a strong melody writer? Are you a strong musician, a player?
Right.
And it's really important to get really strong clarity on those issues before proceeding.
I totally agree, Rich. And, with our consulting services, we offer a myriad of different packages and we've made it super affordable for everybody. So, if you guys are interested out there in connecting with us on a coaching call, you can visit book.mubutv.com and start off with a free 15-minute discovery call.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We start with an initial 15-minute call where we can get a sense of who you are. What are the issues that you specifically have and want to work on?
Exactly.
And we can go from there. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we tailor everything to your needs. It's not like a cookie cutter thing. We kind of really want to get to know who you are as an artist, where you at today, what's the snapshot of you as an artist today, and then start trying to craft something that's tailor-made for you. So again, if you're interested, visit us at book.mubutv.com for your 15-minute discovery call.
Hi, this is Karan Bhatnagar, Head of Artist and Creator Strategy at Hook. Are you an insider? I am. Subscribe now.
Yeah, we were talking to somebody this morning from Brazil who has a whole streaming platform, Stream it's called, and he was talking about technology now that's coming down the pipe that he's been looking at in the AI field, which is how you reminded me of this, where the artist will put music up, it immediately will be compared to 150,000 other tracks of that type and audience analytics of that type, and on the fly at that moment write a marketing plan to reach those people based on what you were just saying. You remember when Fernando was talking about that? I mean, like literally, like within the moment of putting that up there, the track, all that data or information becomes available.
Basing it
to
on
you.
like 275 data points that they're collecting.
Correct.
Public information, not private, but
public
it's
on the
amazing.
points you were just making. Yeah, it's really astonishing.
It is.
Let me ask you, Mark, throughout your career, you've worked with thousands of artists, and what do you feel holds artists back from success in their careers?
Well, one thing is self-doubt. I think it's very easy to not think you're good enough, an insecurity of just purely whether it's, I noticed a lot recently. One trend is people that produce a lot of music, but they don't play live. They're afraid of the stage. I think it has to do, there's a socialization that's not happening with a lot of musicians that needs to start happening. I mean, people need to get out, get out there.
I think it's the isolation, like you said, with the pandemic.
Yeah. They're a little uncomfortable being in front of a live audience. And I think that's really where you battle test your music. It's so important to play live. I always encourage artists to get out there, play even a couple of shows. You don't have to be touring. People say, going on the road. No, just play some hometown shows. Get out there, hit the stage. If you love it, you can do more of it. I think that's so. Insecurity is one. Another is their personal life. I think a lot of people this is not talked about a lot, but essentially they let a lot of those roadblocks of interpersonal relationships that they're having, their parents, their financial situation. They let these sort of dictate to them what they can and can't do. And I think it's easier than ever to make music, and put it out. There's a very low barrier to entry. You can use DistroKid and TuneCore and some of these services. It's almost free. It's almost literally free. So I think that people are holding themselves back in those two ways. Those are really big ones. Yeah, I'll go with those two. Yeah.
Mark, throughout your life, have there been any books or films or documentaries that have been particularly inspirational to you, professionally speaking, that you could recommend to our listeners?
Oh my God.
Anything that influenced you?
Yeah.
Anything that influenced me. There was a book about ideas and I'm bad. I can't remember the title. There's obviously Don Passman's, music business, and I started with that, and that's, cliche again. But, oh God, I will look this up for you guys. There's a book about ideas, and I'll just give you the idea of the ideas.
Yeah.
Just so you know. It's just really about making things stick. Made to Stick.
Made to Stick, I think, is the
Made
name of
to
the
Stick.
book. Yeah.
That book kind of gave me, you kind of have to implant something on the other side. You need, as an artist, and here's why it's important. I'll just get to the important part, is that as an artist, you need to know what message you're conveying, right? And I think a lot of artists lose the plot. They get into a lot of the nitty-gritty, and even some of the things that we talked about, data, right? They get really into almost the data becomes more important than the music itself and the message itself. You have to define your niche. You have to define your voice and stick to that plot. And that book, Made to Stick, is sort of, one book on this topic that's important, where you kind of, you have to be very direct and very, perceptive to understand what it is that's going to persuade somebody to actually come into your fold and become a fan of yourself. And if you're able to understand that, you're going to be a successful artist. You're going to differentiate yourself. And so ideas matter, what you are about matters,
Mark, what advice do you have for artists who are committed to building a career in music today?
I would say, you kind of like make stuff, right? Get up every day and make stuff. Like, it's almost any business. I would give this advice to anybody, even in a totally different field as well. Wake up. If it's something you're passionate about, just get up, finish the bridge to that song that you were, tinkering with for months. Just get up, like attack it, every day, attack it little by little. make stuff, make videos, make lots of content around your music, build world building. It's so much about world building is marketing now. Every aspect of it. Think about your merch, think about the finish line, and then reverse engineer that, right? So like, that's a big thing that I talk about is like sort of start with the release. What do you envision with that release? What do you want the fan experience to be? And then reverse engineer that experience to create the environment of success. Like create the full package for people, you know, make it exciting, make it a moment. Like a lot of artists lose that. I mean, because it is very anticlimactic. One thing that I do understand about being an artist is the day of release, it comes. It's a little bit anticlimactic. It's like you're excited, your friends, your family are excited. Nobody else cares, right? I mean, for the most part, you know, it's just kind of a thankless thing. But if you kind of did all of the right things, if you put your heart and soul into all these different pieces of the puzzle, you put it together, you built it, it's more than the release day. It's a whole cycle. It's an exciting, you can build a world of, and the release itself is almost, you kind of take the emphasis off that one moment and you create many different moments that are really exciting for the fan journey. And that's really what we're trying to create. I always tell people, you know, release day, let it just kind of, don't put so much pressure on that. The first 20, I get artists all the time, I thought the first 48 hours are the most important. No, you know, there's records that are broken, like music tracks that are broken on radio and other platforms months, if not even years after the track comes out. You have many opportunities to promote your music. So yeah, I feel really passionate about this one because I think artists are getting the wrong message from a lot of people in the business. They're telling them, I think because of maybe it's money, maybe it's their own self-interest. They're trying to, you know, like but they really need to look at the long game.
I think you have hit something in the head because 95% of the artists, and this is where we get back to the people spending all their time recording, they spent all this effort getting the song great, and then they release it and they walk away from it. It's like that, like you said, the and that's where the work just begins. You're just at zero, man. You just hit it to neutral. Yeah. Let's start driving the ship forward, and that's where most of these artists and everybody that's listening need to remember that this is a long game. You're running a marathon, not a race. You know, this is a long marathon. So I think building on those things and what you're saying is so important. So it's really interesting that you're talking about that, because that's where I think a lot of the artists are failing. They spend all this time creating the product, they put it out, and it's like you said, the anticlimactic, nothing is happening because nobody else cares. Well, because nobody else knows yet. Let's get these algorithms to start learning who you are, start building on that early, you know, kind of success, and then build. So
yeah, it takes so much longer, as you've been pointing out. And, you know, one of the things that I've gleaned from the conversation with you, which is really interesting, is you've illustrated throughout this conversation the volume of content, whether it's video or marketing or socials or communication or music or whatever, that is necessary today to actually bring attention to something. Yeah. It's not like the old days of, you know, here's my album and I'll see you in 2 years.
And that's the overwhelm with the artist. But the great thing is because of AI and all these things that everybody is scared about, now you can make content very quickly. You know, a couple of years ago, you couldn't do it. Now we're at a time, thank God, that we're living in this time, because now you can do it. So you just got to get out there and just, you know, make it happen. It's very easy now for you to do it. There's like literally no excuses.
Yeah. Precisely.
I hope artists out there understand, you know, anybody would like listening, that you can do it, you know, take a positive approach, you know, don't get down. You know, Ritch is saying, you know, there's so many, it's such a vast amount of jobs of roles that we play as musicians today. We're, you know, on the business side, on the content side, you're everything, you know, you are a small business. And I think that, like, just kind of take the bull by the horns, wake up, do a little bit every day. Yeah. Put 30 minutes into your craft, put 30 minutes into the business side or the marketing side a day. It will pay off in the long run.
Speaking of great books, there's a great book called The One Thing that I recommend to everybody. It's talking about bringing that that it was written by that famous Keller, the real estate company, and it's such a brilliant book. It's a book that I go to every year. It's an obvious thing. It's just focus on the one thing that's going to get you there, putting that rock up the mountain and pushing it over.
Yeah, Keller Williams.
Keller Williams, yes. Keller Williams,
yeah,
yes.
the real estate,
Thank you.
yes.
That's an
Realtor.
incredible book. I urge everybody to get that book. It's an amazing book.
Absolutely.
Mark, where can our listeners reach you? Is it through your website? Is it through socials?
Sure. TheBlossomAgency.com is my agency's website. I also manage under VitalicNoise.com. And, I'm just Mark at those. Either of those is great.
Beautiful. Mark, we want to thank you so much
Mark,
for taking the time to come and
amazing
do
conversation.
this.
Thank
We
you, guys.
appreciated it very much.
Love the convo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So many important points.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, Eric, this was, I think, essential listening for our listeners. Absolutely essential. I mean, when we get down to it, Mark took us through the A through Z's of the things you need to be aware of.
Right.
Which I thought was so important. One of the things that I thought was most interesting in this particular conversation on this topic was the whole idea of finding the right marketing approach. I remember when he said, I don't necessarily think there's a silver bullet. It's very important to try many different facets of promotion and see what works for you. Study what's happening in real time. Testing and getting the feedback early will help sort of guide you in this process. And that's an important factor. It's not just one way, oh, well, that didn't work, move on.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. You've got to get to know. And it's to a lot of the things that we've been talking about before. Who's your audience?
Right.
What are the platforms you're using?
What is the story of the song about, and how can you develop that and then weave that into the marketing plan?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely crucial. And who are you marketing to?
Right.
And what tools are you using? And are all of the elements within the marketing element? I mean, you've spoken about that many times when talking about building social media strategies and imaging and identity and the look and, having it all be cohesive.
Correct.
This is still, I think, just another level of that on a deeper level.
Yeah, and tagging on with the marketing aspect that you were just alluding to, Rich, is also about on low budget marketing, and it's exactly what you just said with social media. This is what he said, socials are free, posting is free. That part, the organic part, you can do from if you really have really limited resources and you're really trying to get exposure. $5, $10, $15 a day are the daily minimum spends on most of these platforms. So the whole idea that you cannot be marketing yourself or you don't have the money, it's you spend more money going to
Coffee.
Starbucks, for Christ's sake, to get coffee, which, I'm not a coffee drinker, but, I know it's expensive as hell to go get coffee. So that whole idea of being able to sink money into what you're doing is better than what 90% of the artists out there do, which is they go through all this trouble. We've talked about it a million times on the show where they record, they put together this great sounding thing, they put it out and it's just sits there and they're wondering why they're not getting any wins, why there's no progress, because you're not marketing it the way you set to record this.
Yeah.
And so that's my whole point in this for you guys that are listening. If you guys are taking the trouble of spending all this time and working your craft and getting those songs perfect, and then you just put them out expecting something to happen, that's just not going to happen. It's just that idea of doing the same thing over and over again, the definition of insanity.
And expecting a different result.
So again, like you said early off on this in our segment here, that he really did go through the A through Z's, and this one was an important one. That this is the one that everybody makes the fatal mistake on, that they don't take it to the finish line. Is you're recording everything and now you don't have any marketing behind it, and this gets back to them either not knowing or haven't gone through the exercises that we're talking about who your audience is, what is the story about in this song, how can you interweave that and make that a running theme, like a thread through the whole marketing process. And all you got to do is study, look at artists that you guys, follow, that you admire, or even ones that you don't, like we always mention, Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, they're masters. These guys are doing a lot of that thinking on their own. They have people that are helping them to a certain degree, but Taylor Swift, you could tell it's very authentic where it's coming from. And I think if you can study it from that standpoint, either whether you're a fan or not of their music, but just appreciate how they weave weave their stories of what they do in their songs and how they put that into a marketing plan, you can kind of take the cues from there and build your own just based on that.
Absolutely. And one of the key things that you just said was, marketing to your audience, you have to know your audience.
Exactly.
You have to know your audience.
The avatar,
and
yes.
The avatar. Who is the avatar that you are trying
Correct.
to reach? That's one of the most important elements. And he went through so many of the steps that one can use in order to reach your market. And I think that's absolutely crucial in terms of building a fan base. Remember, this is not necessarily all about having hits today, hit singles. We're not in that era. But what it is about authentically connecting with an audience, utilizing all of the things that have been talked about, not only in this podcast, but the things that you had mentioned with regards to identity, who your fan base is. Do you know who they are? Do you know how to reach them? And are you revealing yourself to them?
Hey, Insiders, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We really appreciate it. To get show notes, links, and everything that was mentioned during this interview, head on over to our official website at MUBUTV.com/podcast/show notes. If you're enjoying the content and what we're doing here on the show, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts from. And don't forget to rate and review our show at iTunes. 5-star reviews are always welcome and help to ensure that our podcast stands out on the top-rated and new and noteworthy charts on iTunes and our space. You can also find us at social media at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all ending with the handle MUBUTV, which is spelled MUBUTV. Don't forget to catch our flagship show, the MUBUTV Music Business Insider video series, airing every week on YouTube at youtube.com/MUBUTV. This show was produced and created by Ritch, Esra, and Eric Knight. Theme music by Disciples of Babylon, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.